So today we're going to be doing some bullseye shooting, some service pistol shooting. Bullseye, service pistol are the oldest pistol sports here in America. They've been going since probably about 1905. And the most popular match at the national matches in Camp Perry, Ohio, that's held every year in July, is going to be the President's 100 match. And the reason why it's so popular is because the top 100 competitors to score in that match earn what's called a President's 100 tab. And that's important because if you're in the military, particularly the Army or the Air Force, this is one of the few tabs that are actually authorized for you to wear on your uniform. Another thing is, back in the day when you won the President's 100 match, you'd actually get a letter from the White House. I think the last president to do that was George W. Bush. Now, most people that are winning this match are shooting some kind of accurized 1911 or accurized Beretta 92. But you don't really need something like that to make it into the President's 100 tab. So I thought today it'd be a pretty fun challenge to try this out with a bone stock Glock 17 Gen 2. This is a pistol that I carry pretty regularly, seems to shoot pretty well, but the cool thing about shooting a Glock in the President's 100 match is if you're the high scorer using a Glock pistol, and on your scorecard you put down the make and model of your pistol that you used, if you're the high scorer with a Glock pistol, Glock will actually award you a pistol certificate for a Glock, and you get to choose whatever Glock model you want straight from Glock. So bullseye competition is the same course of fire that's been running pretty much since the 1920s. It's shot at 50 yards and 25 yards, 50 yards slow fire, 25 yards timed and rapid fire. The President's 100 pistol course of fire is a 40-shot match, and it differs from most others in that it has 2 slow fire strings. So that's 20 shots slow fire at 50 yards, and then you have 10 shots timed fire and 10 shots rapid fire at 25 yards. This is the 50-yard target. The only difference between this target, the 50-yard B6, and the target that more people are familiar with, the 25-yard B8, is that the 50-yard target has an extra scoring ring that's colored in, but the dimensions of the scoring rings are actually identical. So here I got the 17 Gen 2, totally bone stock gun. The only thing I've done is I swapped out the older plastic sights for the Gen 5 plastic sights. A lot of people don't realize this, but when they went to the Gen 5s, they widened the rear notch on the rear sight quite a bit, and I prefer it, especially for one-handed shooting. On the old style Glock sights, for one-handed shooting, the rear sight would just be too narrow, and I wouldn't have enough light either side of that front sight. A lot of amateurs get obsessed about the width of the front sight, but the width of the front sight doesn't really matter compared to the relationship between the front sight width and the rear sight notch. If you have sufficient light either side of that front sight, it doesn't matter really how wide or how narrow your front sight is. In fact, I tend to prefer a wider front sight, about the size of the Glock front sight, for precision shooting. Now, I'm talking about one-handed shooting because bullseye is shot one-handed for the entire course of fire. At no point are you allowed to use your other non-dominant hand to support the gun. I like to call it my emotional support hand because it doesn't really do anything. I just kind of hook it on my belt and forget about it. I used to do the hand in the pocket thing like the Turkish guy. I've found I actually prefer hooking it on my belt. The ammo I'm shooting is Max Tech 124 grain ammo. It's kind of a windy day, which is annoying. Can't really tell where these shots are going. The camera screen kind of sucks. Oh, I've got a pretty decent group kind of high left of the target. Now, I'm aiming slightly above the bullseye to hit center here. So, you know, I'm just trying to hold the black. If I can hold the bullseye, I'm happy. I've already got 2 shots outside of it. 5 more rounds. Which, you know, it's funny, I shoot the 1911 in my hammer release so much, and I load 5 and 5 because those guns don't hold 10 rounds in the magazine. I could just load 10 rounds in this magazine if I wanted to. Okay. Okay, no. Try the camera position. I think that was in the black. Felt good. Well, I can actually see a hole in the center of the target from here, so that's a good sign. All right, that's 10 shots. So the first thing when we go and score is we're gonna count the number of shot holes on the paper. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So they're all on here. We're supposed to fire 10 shots. We've got 10 bullet holes. The next thing we're going to do is I like to count backwards. Some people like to count forwards, so they start with the higher shot values when they write it on your scorecard. I like to go low to high. This shot here, I put an overlay on, which is essentially like a transparent piece of plastic that has the true diameter of the bullet, and you center that on the bullet hole, and that shows you the true diameter of the bullet. A bullet only needs to touch the scoring ring to score the next higher value, and this 6 does in fact touch the scoring ring into the 7 ring. An X ring hit is scored numerically as a 10, but it's used for tie-breaking purposes. It's still counted at the end of the match. So here I've got, now when I go ahead and score the target, I count backwards and I subtract the number I come up with. So 4 7s, 3, 6, 9, 12, 14, 16, 17. So this first target is an 83 with 1X. Repairing the target's pretty simple. Depends on how good you shoot. The incentive for shooting better in bullseye is that when you go to repair the target, if all your shots are in the repair center, which is the square portion that we use to repair the center of the target, if all your shots are on there, the only thing you have to do is staple on a new repair center. If you have shots that are outside the repair center, now you have to take masking tape, little white pieces of masking tape like you can see here, or sometimes I'll tear a corner off the repair center and staple it over. So the better you shoot, the less time you have to spend here repairing your target. So that's one of the incentives for shooting better. It also makes the math simpler for scoring the target. So normally you get 10 minutes to shoot slow fire. I'm not timing myself because I don't intend to use all 10 minutes up. I live in Texas, it's starting to warm up, so I'm not trying to be out here forever. That was not a good shot. I don't think it was. Well, it looks like the battery's about to die on this camera here. Hold on. One of the things about shooting slow fire is people seem to think that the slower your trigger pull is, the more precise it'll be. And really there's an optimal window. For me, when I pull the gun up, I pick the gun up and I sight in and I start pulling the trigger, it's between 4 and 10 seconds. Anywhere between 4 and 10 seconds are when I have my best, most optimal, most centered shots. And really it's between 4 and 7 seconds. I mean, it does pay to be aggressive on the trigger a little bit, especially when you're shooting service pistols that have, minimum 4-pound trigger pull, which is the minimum trigger pull requirement in bullseye service pistol. So you can't sit there and dawdle with it. It's not a 1-pound trigger pull. It's not an air pistol. It's not a 22 with a 2-pound trigger pull. It's a service pistol with real weight on the trigger. And with a Glock especially, it's got a pretty long roll to the trigger. It is kind of windy today, though. That was terrible. That was a really bad shot. Well, it went exactly where my sights were, so I guess not. I was getting pushed by the wind a little bit, and then I sprung back right as the wind let up, and then the shot broke. And my sights were perfectly aligned, but they were just high left. So I thought that'd be way worse. It was only a 7. That felt pretty centered. Wind's blowing me around. At Camp Perry, it's right on the shores of Lake Erie, so it's a pretty windy place normally. So I'm glad I'm practicing in the wind, because this is representative, I think, of the type of weather conditions you'll shoot the President's 100 match typically. Shouldn't have shot that last shot. That last shot went really, really high. Pretty sure that was it. Was not ready for it. So 78 with 0 X's. That's all right. That's not terrible. This shot, I shouldn't have let get away from me. That was the last shot. I came in for the follow-up shot, and right as the shot broke, I saw my sights drift up. All right, so here we go when it comes to the repair center. This is what I was talking about. So all I'm gonna do with the 25-yard center is I'm gonna put it over the 50-yard center. And since the scoring rings are exactly the same, it'll be the exact same target. The only difference is the bullseye is a little smaller at 25 yards. So next up is the timed fire series. That's gonna be 2 strings of 5 shots fired in a time limit of 20 seconds each at a distance of 25 yards. Now I'm gonna be using an app on my phone called the Bullseye Match app, and that's gonna play some of the range commands, so you're gonna get an idea of the kind of range commands you'd hear if you were to shoot the President's 100 match.
This is the first string of timed fire. 5 shots in 20 seconds. With 5 rounds load. Is the firing line ready? The firing line is ready. Ready on the right. Ready on the left. Ready on the firing line.
Last shot, I took too long. I kind of staged the trigger, and of course that was the one I hooked to the left. So it pays to have an uninterrupted trigger control.
Ready on the left. Ready on the firing line.
Let's go score the target. Okay, so like I was talking about with the line breaks, if the shot's touching the next higher scoring ring, it gets the next higher value. So some of these that are on the line, like this is a 9, even though it's mostly in the 8 ring, it is touching the 9 ring. So that's a 9. This is a 10 right here, and I think those are the only 2 that are close. So for timed fire, so I've got 97 with 1X. And this is what I was talking about. All my shots are in the repair center, so I don't have to waste any time pasting up shot holes outside of it. That's the incentive for shooting better. The last string is rapid fire. This is 5 shots in a time limit of 10 seconds. We're gonna do that twice. Same B8 target at 25 yards, shot one-handed, offhand. iron sights, service pistol, all that sort of stuff.
Ready on the left. Ready on the firing line.
I think I let one get away from me. Now normally you don't have time to check the target in rapid fire. In time fire, usually you have time to look through your scope if the target turns. That's if you're doing it right. I shoot my best time fire, 20-second strings, when I'm shooting them as if they're rapid fire. This is a pretty hard trigger to shoot well though. It's like 6-7 pounds, 6-7. And you know, it's a Glock, right? So I'm a little slower on this trigger than I am with my 1911 or one of my 22s or something like that.
Ready on the left. Ready on the firing line.
I think I let one get away from me, or two. So that second string is probably where at least 2 or 3 of these bad shots came from. But let's go ahead and score it. So I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 shots on target. I have 2 8s and 2 9s, 1 10, and the rest X's, 5 X's. That's pretty impressive actually. So let's see, 2, 4, 5, 6. So that's a 94 with 5 X's. 33 plus 2 is 352 and 7 X's. Let me see if I got that right. Total was 352 with 7 X's with the stock Glock 17. And I mean, this, like I said, this thing does not, it doesn't get any more stock than this gun here. I mean, we've got the plastic sights on there. Like I said, they are the Gen 5 sights, so they have a much wider rear notch, which is cool. But the only thing I've really done to it is I've blacked them out with a black paint pen. So that's a huge thing, right? Dots, tritium inserts, fiber optics, none of that's gonna help you see your sight alignment. The only thing that matters is the relationship between that square notch and that square front. Some people like a U-notch, but the equal height, equal light thing, none of the dots, none of the tritium inserts, none of the fiber optics are gonna help you with that. 352 with 7 X's would have come in at 51st place in the President's 100 match last year. So well within the President's 100. One more X and I actually would have been in the 50th percentile with a stock Glock 17. Realistically, if I'd just been a little bit more patient on that last shot at 50 yards, I probably would have shot like at least a 7, right? So that would have put me even higher. But that just goes to show, like, you really don't need a super duper fantastic, ultra cool, epic pistol to place in the President's 100 or to earn your distinguished pistol badge, right? I very quickly accomplished those goals. In my first year shooting bullseye, I really practiced hard for it. Every day almost, I was going out and shooting my service pistol. I shot like 6,000 rounds of 9mm that year. And a lot of it was at 50 yards slow fire, which is really the most important thing that you need to learn. Where most people drop most of their points is at 50 yards. And the reason why is they'll say, oh, well, at 25 yards, I can shoot just fine. I can shoot 90 plus every single time, 95 plus every single time. But at 50 yards, I can barely hold 80%. The reason for that is when you double the distance to a target, the target doesn't get twice as hard. It gets 4 times as hard, because what we're really measuring is the target's surface area. That determines the target's difficulty. So a 3.3-inch 10 ring here at 25 yards is a certain difficulty. You put that same 3.3-inch 10 ring out at 50 yards, the surface area appears to be half as much. And because surface area and diameter or radius have a quadratic relationship, it becomes 4 times as difficult to hit. There's 4 times less surface area for you to hit. So at 50 yards, really that's where all of your mistakes are gonna come out. You know, if your trigger control isn't exactly right, if your follow through isn't exactly right, if your grip is inconsistent, if you're doing anything at all, especially with one hand on the gun, because you don't have a left hand here to kind of lean into, and the tendency for the right-handed shooter is to push the gun to the left, and for a left-handed shooter to push the gun to the right. When you put your support hand there, that masks a lot of the error, and a lot of people really think that they're good at shooting until they go and shoot one-handed. and that reveals all secrets, especially on paper, right? Because hitting an 8-inch steel plate, a nominal hit versus a center punch is going to be exactly the same. Shooting paper, paper doesn't lie, especially if they're scoring rings like on the B6 or the B8. So yeah, stock Glock 17 Gen 2 Austrian proof marks, pretty cool gun. President's 100 match, President's 100 tab. Thank you all for watching. Thank you especially to my channel members. I'm gonna have the uncut footage of me shooting posted up for a member only or Patreon exclusive video. So if you're interested in that sort of thing, you know, go ahead, consider becoming a member or Patreon supporter. Thank you all for watching. Have a great day.